Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to KHM Today, your weekly resource for industry news and straight up fun. I'm your host, Carolyn Orff, and today is February 1st, 2023. It is our 101 episode. We were in the office last week for our big 100 celebration. It is the day before Groundhog Day and the day after National Plan a Vacation Day. So I hope everyone had a successful booking day. There's lots of promotions out there and they're lasting kind of for the next couple of days. So I hope you and your clients are taking advantage of that. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. So if you've sold something or took advantage of a promotion this week, I'd love to hear about it in the chat. But, it's been so cold here in Denver. There's nothing quite like waking up to negative temperatures. So yesterday was -2. Today felt like pretty much the same. So I can't wait to hear what Puxatawny Phil has to say tomorrow. Spring better be right around the corner because I'm just kind of over this. But anyways, you guys, this past weekend, we had a great playoff game. We know that the Eagles and the Chiefs will be playing in the Super Bowl. And if you have clients that are looking to go, don't forget we do have supplier partners out there that can help you and your clients get there. So, be sure to check out if you're a KHM agent, our portal, Sports Empire's in there, Road Trips is in there. So if you have clients that want to take that once in a lifetime trip to the Super Bowl, we do have some options out there for you, a travel agent, to book. All right, you guys, tomorrow's Groundhog Day, and we thought, how fun would it be to have a show that focused on the theme of the classic movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray? You know, the one where the day just keeps happening over and over and over again? Well, do you ever feel like that with your business? I think many of us these days would say the answer to that is yes. Well, we have two guests here today that are going to talk about ways to get off that hamster wheel and out of the movie Groundhog Day. So please welcome our first guest, Soleil, Director of National Accounts for Norwegian Cruise Line. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So, in all fairness, we can say that in the travel agency, like in the industry as a whole, repetitiveness can be a good thing, right? We
Yes.
like doing the same thing over and over again. It's easy. The return can be great.
Mhm.
In the spirit of the movie Groundhog Day, which repeats the same thing over and over again, is there anything agents should be doing over and over again when it comes to selling the Norwegian product?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So there's actually three things that I would recommend for this. So I'll be brief because I know that we have a time crunch. The first of which would be to tell the story about what your client's experience will be on board their product. Anyone can look through a brochure, anyone can look through a website, but they're coming to you, the travel advisor, to really help put all those pieces together. So you might have three different types of travelers. Maybe one's a solo guest, maybe one's affluent, maybe one is multi-generational, and just help cater the story to each of them to really explain how even on the same sailing, how each of them can have very different experiences that cater to their demographic. So always tell the story, ask for the business. Everyone is always really worried about like, oh, well, the price is too high or this or that. And that kind of ties into the focus on the value. So if you tell the story, you are already presenting the value of the product that's there. And don't be afraid to ask for the business. So once they kind of like, yeah, this sounds really good. I can envision myself on the ship having that experience. Say, great, can we go ahead and put down a credit card for you, or what card would you like to use? So don't be afraid. 9 times out of 10, it just takes that little nudge, and it can be really gentle, just like that. But that can make the world a difference.
One of the things that I noticed with my business is as soon as I started doing digital everything, digital information forms, digital credit card authorization forms that were PCI compliant, my close rate and the time it took to close really shortened. I was just spending time last night on an email to a client and I needed to include a lot of information. So I prefaced that up front, like, bear with me. But before I even finished, it was next steps. This is what I'm sending you. This is what I need so we can make that deposit. And because it's all in there, I didn't wait for her to say, yes, we love the confirmations. It's, if you like the confirmations, get me this information. And it shortens up that time. It doesn't allow for them to waffle back and forth. They find that need to do it right now because they've got all the information they need and they don't forget. Oh, I was
Absolutely.
on a deposit. So
Right.
I absolutely love those things. And I love the idea story. I think, at least in my personal business, I find myself talking a whole lot more than writing, which was the opposite when I started 15 years ago. Just this weekend, I have a meeting with a client who, like, I'm doing a presentation because it's a special trip that she's giving to her niece and nephew, and she wants them to feel part of the process, but she's
Oh,
never cruised before. So it's
oh,
these
that's
things
fun.
that I don't typically do, but they need the story told so that they can get on board with this trip and be excited about it. So, it's always throwing you this business is always throwing you little nuggets of ways to switch it up.
Absolutely.
So on Norwegian, there are
Mhm.
things that clients go and they're like, I'm doing this the same thing over and over again. This is what I like to eat. This is where I like to eat. This is what I like to watch. What's new and exciting that gets us out of that movie and doing new things, even though we might have sailed with you guys lots of times? We love loyal customers.
Absolutely. So, one of the really fun things that if anyone has sailed Norwegian in the past, let's call it 10 years, then they've seen the Breakaway, the Getaway, the Bliss, all those beautiful ships, which are very familiar to each other. You know, they have the standard 678 Ocean Place. They're all very familiar, so you never feel like you're lost. You know exactly where you're going once you get on board. So, as far as what's new, we do have Viva and Prima that are our new class of ships with Prima class, and we have one of these ships averaging a year total for 6 straight years. So we already have Prima that's out. Viva's already coming out this summer, which is crazy to think that we're already like in February, and she'll be here this summer. And then we have four more of this class of ships. So if someone hasn't been on Norwegian in a while, or even if they have,
Mhm.
this is completely different. I think I mentioned on the last KHM today that I ended up doing that I heard someone say it, and I couldn't agree more. It is the entertainment of Norwegian with the service of Regent and the
Mm,
dining focus of Oceania. And it is really the blend of all three of those brands so beautifully done. So I say we have that. Um, and then some of my things that I'm just like you have to do no matter what every time. I love booking dining early. I love food, and granted, I love having all types of food, but I do have like my favorites. So I would definitely recommend booking dining early as you can. And then once you get on board, if you're still hungry, you can book more, which is great. And something that maybe people kind of forget to do or maybe don't realize to do, but it's just one of those things that makes your life a lot easier. Prepay your gratuities, because that
yeah.
way it's one less thing you have to worry about once you're on board. And it really makes it so that once you're on board, you don't have to worry about a single thing.
Mhm. What is something that you drink or eat every time you're on board?
I'm a big mojito fan. So on the Encore in particular, we do have a mojito bar. So I do love the passion fruit mojito. And as far as eating, I'm a big fan of Food Republic, and their salt and pepper calamari is my jam.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, and what is it that you think is prompting? I feel like the clientele was asking for the Prima class ship, but for
Hmm.
for 4 more to be coming,
Yeah.
like, wow, because I like the Breakaway class ship too.
Hmm.
So, like, what is it about 4 more? I mean, that's a crazy for the next 4 years. I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
It is. Well, the nice thing is that we're not looking. Norwegian isn't looking to be the biggest ship. That's not the market we're looking to be at. So these ships are actually slightly smaller. So they're the same tonnage as the Breakaway and the Getaway, but they have 800 less guests on board the ship. So they do have more elbow room, so to
Mhm,
speak, on board, so it doesn't feel as crowded. As well as the smaller vessels allow for us to take these ships into more remote ports of
mhm,
call that perhaps some of the larger ships like Breakaway, and not Breakaway, Bliss, Joy, and Encore, and Escape, because they're all sisters,
mhm.
that they might not be able to get into. So it does let us play around with some of the itineraries a little bit more.
I always find it fascinating how the cruise lines in general can foresee what clients are going to be wanting and needing so far in the future. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
like you can just come up with a ship plan and like throw it out there and it's built. Like you have to have this is years in the
it's
making.
it's it's fascinating to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, years in the making, and the fact that more elbow room and smaller ports, where we're seeing those as trends
Hmm.
now, you had to have thought about these at least 5 years ago.
Pre-pandemic, right? And
Yeah.
that was kind of like, and we announced Prima during the middle of the pandemic, so to speak, around Mother's Day of 20. Because I remember I was with my sister up in Boston at the time working remotely. And I remember like talking it up and being like, this is not like how great. And she's like, oh, was this because of the pandemic? I'm like, no, this is actually was done
Yeah.
way before. This is when we're opening it for sale, much, much less, having something to thought of years prior.
Right. That's crazy. I would love to be with those people in the room or the fly on the wall to,
Yeah, right?
to say,
Same.
what are they thinking about for 5 years down the road? So, I like to geek out over everything education. And,
Yes.
is there something that is new and interesting or something we should really be tuned in when it comes to Norwegian and their education platform and things that we should be on the lookout for?
Absolutely, always. So I know that there's a lot of advisors out there who are like, oh, I've done NCLU, I'm already a PhD, like been there, done that. But we always add new classes. So even just today, I went back because admittedly it's been a while since I've looked. So I went back and I looked. There is a Norwegian Viva elective. So if you haven't taken that, I suggest going ahead and taking that. And then we also have a Norwegian Prima class overall,
Mhm.
dining bars and lounges elective. So if you haven't had a chance to experience Prima personally, you can take this. And again, it helps you tell that story.
Mhm.
And I will say, fun fact, at least on Prima and Viva, there is a bar on the back of deck 8 behind Indulge called Soleil bar. I'm just saying. So that's another kind of fun detail that you can learn in the course. So yes, I would say even those two are the two newest courses that we have. But even if you've been there, done that with our courses, always go back because you never know what courses we have added.
Okay. And my last question for you, because I am all about the roller coasters and the go-karts and everything on a ship, because I think it's so cool that you can put those things on a floating city.
Me too.
I just think that's really neat. And so is there anything is there a sneak peek you can give us? Like, is there anything cool coming in the future on any of these ships that we're like, oh my gosh, just wait and see?
So there is on Prima and Viva, we do have the Speedway. I have not had the opportunity to do the Speedway, but we do have the Rush and the Drop as well that are dry slides. Um, Again, I've been working while I've been on board these ships. Unfortunately, I have not had the chance to first experience them, but when I do, I'll come back on another KHM Today and I'll let you know. But the nice thing is that we're trying to make them similar, all these class ships, similar but slightly different, because after a while, it gets to be the
Mhm.
same ship. So all I do know is that we are planning for the next pair to be potentially something different on the top deck. But that's all I know.
Very cool. And you have to think, like, what more is there to do? I
That
mean,
that hasn't already been
well,
done.
and that doesn't have you leaving the ship, like physically leaving the ship.
Yeah, I don't know that maybe like a rocket launch would work or anything like
No,
that. No.
no, nothing like that. No, no, no parasailing, no paragliding, no
No, and it gets
parachutes of
windy up
any.
there.
Yeah, exactly. Could find yourself off. Well, Soleil, thank you so much for being here today and helping us to celebrate Groundhog Day and showing us that, even if we're loyal customers, there's still something always new to do on board. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you in a few weeks on Crystal.
Yes, we'll see you soon.
All right, take care.
You too.
I love it. All right. So if you haven't tuned in before, if you have tuned into the show before, you've heard from Wanda Thomas from the education team. She is kind of you know, if you were to describe her, you would say that she is the queen of efficiency. Now, maybe today she is not. We're all feeling, I think, a little overwhelmed, but we thought she would be the perfect person to talk about some of those tools and tips that are out there to help save some of the repetitiveness and things that you do over and over and over again. So, hello, Wanda. There she is.
Queen of efficiency, not. Especially not right now. My mind and head is overwhelmed with a million things.
Well, and it's so interesting because you are someone that's so big into process and procedure. And, I was telling you right before the show that this is just so timely because I think January for many agents, it was like, through the ringer. It was like unbelievable busyness. And if it wasn't necessarily with your travel business, it could be with kids and parents and home and travel and all these other things. So I feel like everyone is almost at that like tipping point where they're like, oh my gosh, I got to get my act together. So you say that there are 5 categories of tasks that are somewhat repetitive, and you've got some ideas as to how to maybe not use tools to decrease the amount of time it takes you to be repetitive.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when I think about all the things that I did on a repetitive basis when I first started, seemed like with every client that reached out to me, I rewrote or wrote a new statement back to them. If somebody reached out to me to ask me a question, I wrote something out each time to reply back to them, so forth and so on. And now I have so many things that have either been automated or templated to be able to make it easy, where basically I click a button or copy and paste or whatever the case may be. But definitely, as I look at it, the 5 areas that I think that can really have some automation, some processes put into place to really make our life a little easier is definitely when it comes to customer service communication. As I was just, mentioning, there are things like cut and paste. There are things like templates to have in the place instead of you having to rewrite those things every single time.
Mhm.
You're able to, just move it over and send it on off, just change the name or the title, etc. And if you're using an application that has a merge field type scenario, it'll automatically pick up the person's name from the email address. So you don't even have to do that part. So definitely for customer service communication, and there's a number of things I'll come back to on that. Definitely from an email marketing standpoint, the more you can automate, where it's what I would call a sequence. Some people will call it a funnel, things of that nature, but it's a process of step-by-steps that you're able to basically click a button, add a tag, whatever that functionality is, so that it automatically kicks those things off so the client gets them. In the email marketing piece, one of the things that I use on a regular basis is when someone is a new client of mine, there's a sequence that basically I have a tag that says, this is a new customer. I put that in, it automatically kicks off those particular number of emails that are set up. And I've got like little time blocks in between, wait 2 days, whatever the case may be, an hour, whatever. And it automatically just sends communication to the client to make sure that we're engaging them and nurturing them up front. But instead of me having to rewrite things every single time, it automatically kicks those things off and gives them that information. Definitely, as we think about social media, is another category, financial tracking, client appointment requests. And of course, one thing that I think a lot of us don't think about as small business people, we are responsible for the privacy and the control of the data that we are gathering about our clients. So if you have files that you're keeping on an external drive, on a drive on your computer, whatever, it's so imperative that we understand the importance of our responsibility in keeping that data safe. And think about something crashing and you can't get to it. You need to have backups, and you need to back up on a regular basis so that if one file goes down, you've got that backup, excuse the pun, to go to and, find that data again and to put things back into place. And when we talk about automation, and instead of having to remind yourself the first of the month, I'm going to do this, most of these particular applications and your computers, etc., come with the functionality to automate those steps. So you can set it up so that, 15th of the month or every night as you shut down, whatever that may look like, it immediately backs those files up to a specified location, whether that be, again, on your particular computer or some type of external drive. But I think that's a real point I wanted to really make as we think about cybersecurity and all the breaches that are taking place these days and lost data, et cetera. That's one area I think we really need to think about and make sure to remember. Let's automate that to make our life easier, because we're helping ourselves from a process standpoint, but we're also maintaining that security and the trust that the clients have in us as far as making sure that data is backed up somewhere.
Wanda, what's your answer to the calendar question? Like, I think Calendly's a great tool to use when you're trying to speak with clients, because how many times can we play phone tag, right? I think that's a
Absolutely.
great tool. But what about just kind of merging that business and that home calendar? Because it can get tricky sometimes. And then,
Yes.
if this is your, other job, your part-time job, and you've got another work schedule, that can become even more challenging. So do you have a tool that you use that helps merge all of this together?
Oh my gosh. I have, as we've talked about, I feel like I have so many calendars. Every one of my different emails has a calendar associated with it. I have one main calendar that I use for everything, more specifically for the travel business, so that I can have a software like Calendarly attached to it, so that when somebody wants to meet with me, instead of me trying to, first of all, meet with them to meet about the meeting, to schedule the meeting, I can send them out that link and say, okay, do me a favor, go out and find what's convenient for you,
Yep.
because that's how you want to pose it to the client. It's not about, even though it's creating more time for you and making it easier for you, you always want to pull it over into the concept of it's about the client. So,
Mhm.
so that it's convenient for you and that you are able to find a time slot that's easy for your timetable, please use this link. It'll already let you know what's available on my calendar. You just plug in whenever you want to talk and it's already there. So I do use Calendarly, and I have it connected to a specific email box where that particular box specifically I make sure is blocked out for everything I've got going on. So if I've got 3 or 4 things going on, KHM stuff, this stuff, that stuff, then I make sure that calendar is always updated with that particular information, so that as my clients are trying to schedule time, it already blocks those things out.
Mm.
It does get a little challenging sometimes when you do have those multiple calendars and you do have to kind of, like, I forward everything really to all of my calendars. So if I'm on one calendar, something comes up, instead of me just saying okay and accepting it and putting in that calendar, I immediately forward it to all those other calendars and accept it on those calendars to make sure that they're blocked out as well based
Yeah.
on those particular things. Because in my world, if it's not on the calendar, it's not
Not
happening.
happening.
It's just not happening.
Yep. And I love when I've trained my family about that too, because I keep saying, well, I'm gone. It's not on the calendar. And
Yep.
I was like, sure it is. Yeah, no, it wasn't on that calendar. So I
Exactly.
do have two that are supposed to merge, but every once in a while, the merge doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on, like, when you're doing research,
Yes.
and you create information about a hotel or a cruise line?
Yes.
I know a lot of people have just kind of used Word, and they'll copy and paste and, kind of label the document, the resort name and where it's located. I know some people use Evernote. What's your preferred way of, like, storing your research?
My preferred way is definitely Evernote. I talk about Evernote all the time. I love my Evernote. It is worth the money to have the pro version. I think I pay, want to say $79 a year or something like that, but it is so worth it. I mean, it's at your fingertips. So, for instance, I have an app on my phone. I can always get immediately to what I need. I have the desktop version so I can get to it on my computer. They sync with one another. So it all is right there. So I have literally everything in my Evernote. And when I say everything, I mean, for example, I'm able to, what they say, stack the particular notes. So I have a overall umbrella that says 2023 sales and planning goals. And then underneath that, I have a note for every single month within the year that has a template that I've created where I can literally go in and track, look at, last year's sales were this. This is what I'm goaling for this year. So if I'm so on, I have a spot where I can put in here what my thoughts are for this particular month that I want to focus on. I have a reflective spot where I can go back at the end of the month and say, okay, this is what I actually did in January. I said I was going to implement this. I did implement that, et cetera, et cetera. But every single month, I can go into each of those notes at the end of those months and put things in at the beginning. So I definitely use a lot at the beginning and the end of the month to kind of recap. I keep track of everything, whether it's website connections, how many times people have gone to my website, whether it's how my groups have grown, you name it, it's all at my fingertips. That way, when anybody asks me how is business, I can literally pull it up right on my application, right on my phone, and say, well, this is what I've done over last year for this month, so forth and so on. I can see what my business is doing and keep that very much at the top of mind and always in my hand. But to your previous point, it also is a wonderful thing. I have a section that says destinations. And in the destination umbrella, I have all of these different countries, cities, states, you name it, all outlined with underneath the destination section. And as I've gone places and taken those notes that we take when we're doing a tour, etc., I have those notes by destination. I also have, if I've been in the Facebook group and somebody said something that really resonated with me, maybe I've copied and pasted and added it to that section. But anytime somebody asks me, what do you think about said destination? Do you have any recommendations? Or I had a contact in that area, I can immediately on my phone, again, on my computer, etc., go to my destination section, pull up that particular destination, immediately have something I can reference to that particular person that I'm talking to, whether I met them in the grocery store or wherever. It always makes me seem extremely prepared and knowledgeable by having it right at my fingertips. And it also saves me from having to always copy, always rewrite things or think about things or research things. It's right there. I just need to pull it over and put it to whatever I'm working on that day.
So that sounds just a little bit better than, let me find that Post-it. I know it's here somewhere. Yeah. But you know what? You say the research.
Mhm.
I think so many of us fall down that hole. And I think
Yes.
we fall down that hole because we are so, we're trying to do so many things at once
Yes.
that we're not thinking about the future, right?
Yes.
Oh, I just got to get this proposal out. I'll worry about, saving that later.
Mhm.
No, save it now. Use this filing system. I mean, that's
Mhm.
essentially what it sounds like, is an electronic filing system
Exactly.
that, allows you to create all this content. And then all you're going back and doing is fact checking. Like, oh, is
Exactly.
that still the case? Are there still 16 pools and 17 restaurants? Yeah. Okay. Real quick. This is perfect. It's written well, copy paste on its way.
Yep. And it also helps you to even collaborate with other business partners because it has a share feature. So if you want to actually just simply take this, somebody calls, says, do you have, as we think about the posts in our groups, does anybody have a favorite resort in blah, 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 or any information on blah, blah, blah? It's very easy if you have their information to easily go in and simply hit share and email it directly to them or send it to a post on their Facebook page, whatever the case may be. It has that functionality, so it's very easy to share it with others as well if you so desire.
Well, and the other thing I'm thinking you could use this for is, as you said, you've got your file destinations. If you have a great hotel, especially in Europe, I feel like that question comes up a lot. And you're like, why are we constantly researching new hotels? What
Yes.
worked in the past? Let's see if that
Yes.
works for this client as well. So to be able to have that follow-up phone call with a client and them to be able to come back and say, love this hotel, great location, this is what I didn't like. And you're able to take all those notes.
Exactly.
And the next time a client comes, you're saying, I don't have to do the research. We're plugging in that hotel. It worked great. It's,
Exactly.
so slowly but surely you're decreasing that repetitiveness and the time it's taking you to do the same tasks over and over again.
Absolutely.
You can see I'm kind of jumping on board. And after this, I'm probably going to go, Wanda says, do the pro, because I'm a paper person. I do things that I've done for 15 years, and it has to be something really good for me to make a switch. And I'm cheap, so it really has to be good if I have to pay for it. But this, as you're talking, is one of those things that I think really sounds like it would be worthwhile for really anyone to do. Is there a voice option?
Yes, I think you can do a voice option where you speak and it automatically types everything in for you. So I think that's an option as well. I know you can put in pictures, you can put in business cards, you can put in all kinds of stuff. So it's got a lot of functionality built into it for making things really easy. I mean, for people that think, as I talked about my sales goals and things like that, they're like, okay, I don't even know where to start. It even has templates built in. So it's like, if you want to create a page to track sales or groups or whatever the case may be, it typically has a template that's out there that you can just plug in and just start filling in things, and then you can modify it how you want it to be, and then resave it into your particular favorite templates. I've taken definitely some of the ones that comes with the application, utilize those, made adjustments to them as I've gone along that benefit me, and then save them into my own template section. Again, thinking about saving us time, it gives me the ability that when I get ready to do the next month, as we talked about these different months in there, I can simply go, okay, fill that with this template. It's already done for me. All I had to do was give it a new title. The template's done. I just need to fill in some numbers and keep moving.
I'm seeing the voice piece being very useful when on a site visit.
Oh yeah.
To be able to talk through your impressions and your thoughts and things like that. And then the other thing I just have to kind of crack up about is when someone, you say it so casually, like, "Oh, how's business going?" And you're like, "Well, let me tell you," like here's just like, most people would answer, "Pretty good, great." One's like, "Well, let me tell you about my sales," because they're right in my hands. So I love that, but that's so you.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, definitely. I need to have it right there, top of mind, because my OCD and my anxiety and everything else, I really need to have things where I can get to them so that I can be right on top of stuff. Again, I'm that person that if something's not, my brother jokes all the time, you're that person that walks into your house and you immediately go, "Who's been in my house? That picture frame's been moved." And I am truly that person. That picture frame is 2 centimeters off to the right. Who's been here? I am that person. So I have to have it in my hand, And as I see Denise had a question for us about Evernote, about the scanning. And yes, that's one thing I like too. As we talked about research, as I go to different websites and I find certain articles or things that really I'm like, maybe I don't even have time to read it right now, but it's about something I definitely want to save and keep. You can literally say, scan and clip and put into my Evernote. And you can indicate, like, anytime you scan something, where you want it to go. It could be a central note page and you move it later, but you can literally click for it to scan that article completely, pictures, everything into Evernote, and it's there for you. I have a bunch of things like that where I've been on the plane, traveling, whatever the case may be, and oh yeah, I want to keep this. And I'll go ahead and say, scan that and stick it in here. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I feel very enlightened. I would love to know if Evernote sales go up after this episode. And I know we just kind of really focused on that, but this is a really big one that I feel like we fall into such a trap with: the calendar and that research piece. It's really hard for agents to keep up with it. And I think both of these, the tools that you've shared today will be, baby steps, right? Yeah. We're not going to change something in every one of these categories.
Absolutely.
But, I totally, your customer service, like I said, with Soleil, a little bit more automation. And, I love my paper, but, some of those automations, they cut down on the time it takes to close the sale.
Absolutely.
And if we can do that, that's huge.
Yep. As we were talking about with Evernote and that particular piece of cutting down on the amount of communication, et cetera, I have one of the notes that I have is like 4 different ways that I thank someone for reaching out to me. So it's initial contact, maybe they are part of it because I have certain groups that will contact me, and I have one that's specific to a group. Since you're a part of this group, yada, yada, yada. But, the generic of, thank you so much for reaching out to me, so forth and so on. This is something I want you to know. Here's my website. Here's my business card, whatever. I already have that already written in Evernote. No matter where I'm at, if somebody just got me on the phone and I'm traveling, I can literally go in, do a copy, paste, slap it into a text, send it off right then and there without any particular problem. So again, it's about that urgency and showing how committed you are to gathering that sale, to closing that sale. So I've been doing a lot of that, making sure to send that SMS, that text message over to the client to say thank you, as well as following up with an email. But that immediacy and having it in my hand in Evernote, being able to copy, paste, throw that in, I think that says a lot, because they get that, then they also get an email later on with a little more detail involved with it.
I love it. Well, and I think we could do an entire show on client communication.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's such an important piece. I think it's our differentiator. I think it's how we set ourselves apart
Oh, yeah.
from so many different competitors out there. And so we'll have to come back and chat about that another time. But thank you
Absolutely.
so much for being here and sharing some
Absolutely.
of your Groundhog Day tips. You are going to be on Crystal as well. So I'm
Yes.
excited to spend some time with you. But you guys, thank you today for joining us. Wanda, thanks for being here. Thank you, sponsor Apple Leisure Group, and our who is our overall sponsor, and of course all of our segment sponsors as well. We appreciate your support. You guys, next week we celebrate Black History Month. We've got an amazing guest with us, and we have a supplier that has never, ever, ever been on KHM Today before. So we hope you'll join us. Same time, same bat channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to KHM Today on the KHM Travel Group YouTube channel. Have a great week, everyone, and keep selling for National Plan a Vacation Day. Take care.